26. This meeting is being broadcast live by Westford Cable Access TV and recorded for playback online. By participating in this meeting, you're consenting to your audio and likeness being used for this purpose. The first item at 7 p.m. on our agenda is open forum. Do any members of the commission have something for open forum? Matt? Okay. Do any members of the audience have something for open forum? No? Okay, moving on to our other 7 p.m. agenda item. It's review and issue enforcement order for Cesaro, 27 Tenney Road. Good evening.
Good evening. Don Cesaro, 27 Tenney Road.
So included in the commission's meeting packet, following up from 2 meetings ago, is a draft enforcement order for the commission's consideration. Documented was the removal of trees within the buffer and buffer to a resource area in addition to riverfront area. Included, again, findings and typical items ordered for the commission's consideration. Again, it kind of start the discussion of, kind of provide a starting point for a discussion.
Jim?
One question, Matt. I noticed in the findings there were 6 trees that were cut. It was mentioned 6. And in the order for corrective actions, it only talks about 2 native species trees planting. Is that because are some of them not in the buffer zones, or?
Yes. Sorry, just trying to catch up.
Total of 6 at the beginning of the findings paragraph, I think it talks.
Yeah. Again, it was within the buffer. I think it was 1. There were 2 that were removed.
Okay, and that's why there's 2 replacing. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any?
Again, I don't know if you want to discuss it.
You got some questions?
Yeah, I guess my preference would be to strike number 3. I'd be okay with, staying when mowing along the driveway. I'd be okay with, staying a little bit away from the tree line. But my preference would be to do additional plantings under number 1 rather than let all of the grass grow in, because I have.
So if you just scroll to this, so you're proposing to.
There's a laser pointer there if you want to drop, or, if you want to speak to specific areas.
Yeah, I mean, basically, number 3 mentioned having all this grass, just let it grow up and only maintain, I think, 3 feet from the pavement edge. My concerns with that is, well, the big one would be aesthetics. It never looks good when, someone doesn't cut their grass. Second would be just ticks, and there's also overhead lines, so just letting it grow up may eventually impact the lines. And then there's also a lot of bittersweet that grows in this area. So my preference would be, when I mow, I can stay a couple feet off the tree line edge, but I'd rather do additional plantings than have to let all this kind of grow back in. And I haven't removed any trees or shrubs along here, and so as far as I know, this is how it's always been. I haven't lived there, the entire time. But I don't really have any evidence that it hasn't been like this. So.
What do people think?
Well, I've lived in the neighborhood since '92. I can tell you that.
So longer
It
than
has
I have.
opened up a little,
Yeah.
The commission wouldn't have approved coming so close to the resource area, with the mowing and the grass and all of that. I hear what you're saying, but I think what we're trying to do is just, he doesn't like the grass, but at some point we don't want to continue to let that creep. So, looking for a compromise instead of letting it be maintained.
I mean, would the commission entertain it being kind of periodically mowed, so, it may, kind of have a little bit more of a meadow strip where it grows up a couple of times and then it's mowed back, so
So
it's
you don't
not.
get the trees growing.
Right, again,
I mean, it's still,
with also, to his point of, if additional plantings, are planted in that area, we're getting more habitat features than, again.
Yeah, I
to-
prefer
to-
not just to mow, if we're gonna do something and, then, like Jim says, maybe some additional planting and stuff should be here.
You mean like, and what,
Like some ground cover that doesn't have to get mowed.
it would be, so native shrubs that would be close to the ground, so you don't have something that's growing up really tall, it's not interfering with the line of sight,
All the power lines, right?
or yeah,
That's good. I like that.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out why, like, the trees weren't even removed in this area, so why is this being proposed as part of the remediation effort? I would prefer to do plantings, kind of, with a field visit with Matt and try to determine some good place to do some plantings. There's definitely plenty of room down here to do some. And there's even other, there's some other locations that I have in mind that we could do. So my preference is just to kind of leave this as grass. Again, I'm happy to, leave a small buffer, but it's the entrance to our home. I would prefer just to leave it as grass. It would be a lot of work to try to change it to something else. So.
Well, you have my opinion, that's,
Looking for
Yeah.
input from the commission. Again,
I mean, I don't mind, if you wanted to go out and look by, some ground cover or whatever, if you looked at probably the original order for this, and you looked at the driveway,
so
You'd say that,
included in the packet was, was a plan, annotated plan from a former agent of the commission when the driveway was replanted, or repaved, in August of 2000. Again, the hay bales, the hay bale and silt fence was located across kind of the entirety of the along the driveway. In reviewing aerial imagery from before that in 1995, that extent of kind of clearing for the driveway area was approximately 30 feet. So again, I mean, if the driveway is 10 feet, and I think now just, with aerial canopy enclosure, looking at the, I don't think there's been much more, I think maybe, a little bit on the margin, but I think overall, again, a 30-foot, kind of, driveway between the pavement and, associated landscaping, I think it's pretty consistent,
I'd say probably if you go up to, where you have the culvert, it's grass straight, and we just wouldn't have done that. So I'm just, in some of those areas where it's right up against the resource, that's what I'm looking, more to get that buffer, because it's right to the edge.
Yeah, in that area, that's where I was actually thinking of doing plantings, so that would be like up here, and that's where I think would be a good spot for
So-
plantings.
so targeted areas for renaturalization, so instead of putting a few things here and there, take a couple of areas
Yeah.
and come with a more prepared plan.
Yeah, it's somewhat
Improve
closer
those
to where,
areas.
he has, his culvert there, and you'll see right next to his culvert, it's grassed right out to,
So the more so the area is closer to the resource and potentially more sensitive.
yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I wanted to mention or a concern is we do have beaver activity. And they are pretty active and they take down stuff all the time and dam up the box culvert, which you probably are well aware of. So that would be the only concern is I would like to do plantings in that area. We'll have to figure out a way to, I guess, protect them from the beavers.
Well, I guess if you're talking shrubs to medium height stuff that's not gonna be big enough
Yeah,
that the
they're
beaver's not
gonna
gonna
be
wanna deal with
interested to
it.
go
Right.
take that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking when it's first starting to
Oh,
grow up,
you
but
think they'd eat it?
possibly they seem to eat
Okay.
a lot of the,
They got a couple of bank lodges in there. They're old,
Okay,
historic beaver lodges in there.
So
So-
in terms of kind of the drafted enforcement order, in terms of number 3, is that, is the commission amenable to striking that? And again, also as part of the DEP's form, there is the, a restoration plan shall be filed with, kind of something, have something prepared in the next, couple, 3 months. I mean, again, no plantings are going in now anyways. For, my review, targeted
So we're
around.
not defining whether it would be shrubbery or a periodic,
Yeah, I mean, I think
occasional cutting.
I think if we could still have a couple trees, be planted again, in, targeted, specific areas, but allow, at the culvert, allow for kind of a more natural, have shrubs or something, some
I'm okay with shrubs.
vegetation, some vegetation that, hopefully is not,
Grow tall,
yeah,
When
won't-
you're right next to that culvert and stuff like that, I mean, some of those areas you'd want your plantings to be more permanent. Further away, maybe not so critical.
So what, further away, periodic mowing?
Closer to the front of the street where it's opened it up.
Right in the resource area, though?
Yeah, that could be some
Shrubs and
periodic
leaves.
mowing and stuff, but, closer to that culvert, maybe more permanent plantings, bushes, shrub.
so.
yeah, and
what-
I'd be okay with doing like a combination of trees and shrubs or whatever Matt recommends when he does the site visit.
yeah, did provide the Eversource planting guide for underneath utility lines. So again, it's usually a good resource for native species that don't grow too tall, but do provide some
So-
beneficial habitat.
So the proposal is to remove order number 3 and that planting plan that's part of the standard
Yep,
enforcement order form would be used for Matt and Mr. Cesaro to develop a targeted renaturalization in sensitive areas or areas closest to the resource.
yeah.
Yeah, so can I have a motion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
And then one other thing, I know there's like some dates on here for
Yes.
things for the plan. I think it said, I forgot what it said. But I didn't know if it would be more beneficial to wait until the leaves and the foliage
Yeah,
are
that-
on everything before we kind of determine where we should do the plantings.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I
was
think,
more like May or June, maybe.
yeah, I can put, again, it was more just, we can certainly make that timeframe the end of May, if the commission's amenable.
That way you kind of see how everything looks and then decide where to.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. So voted to issue.
Okay, so can I have a motion to issue the enforcement order as amended?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So moving on, excuse me, moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of public hearing and issue order of conditions for Nabnasset Lake Country Club, 47 Oak Hill Road.
So in terms of the, Mike Igo with Acres Consultants, representing Mabnasset Lake Country Club, on the replacement irrigation system. So we reviewed the draft order of conditions. We took no exceptions except for condition number 26. I think in general, the way it's written is acceptable. I think that after conferring and taking a look at it a little bit more, and conferring with my client, is that I think the idea is we want a little bit of flexibility as far as the shape and the general locations of some of the naturalized areas that we're conceding back. In general, from a totality standpoint, from an area standpoint, we're not looking to take area away. It's really more of a golf course architecture perspective where when Mr. Salem was out in the field with us prior to the massive stow that we've gotten, that it really just comes down to more of a golf course playability and a golf course architecture perspective. The land itself is very specific in how the golf course is played by the members and by the golfers at large. So where it said, what we don't want is just to say it's a hard and fast 5-foot wide strip, so that's why we wanted to say to the extent practicable. There are going to be areas where the golf course gets closer to 5 feet, and we've identified that in the email where there are some areas where sorry.
Yeah.
Could you show us on a plan?
Oh, sure,
Where
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to meet the 5-foot
Yeah,
buffer?
sure,
Because
yeah.
that was something I was very happy to hear when we were freezing our asses off.
Yeah, I know, right.
Wasn't that bad?
Yeah.
It was bad.
Hold on.
Depends on how you were dressed.
Right.
All right, so, let's see,
Okay.
yeah.
What's,
So right along, definitely right along this edge here, so that tee box that's right there and that green right there, that's actually really tight, and that's tightly mown all the way to that area. So you're talking about really only a key couple areas. The only thing, so for certain right there, and then on the other side of the golf course, we think we can try to get 5 feet in this area here. But again, like we talked about, at least in the field prior to the snow falling in when we were out there, that this area is definitely part of the golf course as well.
Right.
So that's going to be a critical space here. It's really kind of the only areas that I feel like that 5 feet might not be possible, but we're going to try the best that we can. And then the other areas too is just that while we're showing this right now as a fully naturalized area, this may have some waves to it, or this may have some give and forth or give and take as far as what that actually looks like. Only because that part of this here, again, is part of the golf course. So I think generally speaking, from a totality, from an area standpoint, we're not looking to come back to what the proposal is. It's just that we need a little bit of flexibility on what, let's say, that line looks like, so.
That side has nothing to do with the 5 foot, right? That's.
No, correct, that's right.
But you're saying over here is a problem?
It's not necessarily a problem, but we just need a little bit of flexibility because that is a landing area from the tee box that's here and here to get
Right.
over to the other side here.
Right. Except,
So,
you know,
because
you're
if,
saying, you offered that when we were there at the walk. We were on Moore Road overlooking that whole area, and you specifically pointed out that to me, saying that was gonna be a 5-foot buffer all along that lane.
So-
I don't think we got down to this end all the way, right?
no,
On our height.
right. So the point being is that it's 5 feet to, what we want is to say the extent practical. It's that if it's 5 feet, it's gonna be 5 feet. But if there are certain areas, let's say along that brook in terms of having balls hit over or trying to get through that space in that area, the concern is that it's not a hard and fast 5 feet. And it's not gonna be 0 feet or 1 foot. It might be 2, 3, it might be 6 in certain areas. It's a matter of being led hard and fast on that line there. It's
So-
already, it's already a mown turf grass golf course area, so we're providing something as a whole in totality hasn't been there before. So just from our perspective, all we're asking for is a little bit of flexibility in the wording. It's not to say we won't do it, it's just we need a little bit of flexibility as the golf course is taking shape, as we're really kind of redoing the golf course in many ways. It's a landscape architecture, it's a landscape project where this is gonna be shaped and it has to be grown in and has to be developed in a way so that it works with the golf course itself.
I'm not understanding why it wouldn't be able to have a 5-foot buffer there. It was okay to have a 5-foot buffer when we were looking over the site, but now there may not be.
Well, I think it's just a matter of just saying to the extent practicable. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the one that's signing off on the certificate of compliance and providing an as-built plan. So I think at the end of the day, what I've advised our client is to say, we've said 5 feet, it's gonna be plus or minus. What we don't want is to say, is you guys to come out on as-built say it's 3 feet or it's 2 feet and you're not in compliance. So that's, from our perspective, we're just looking for a way to get a little bit more flexibility to shape the golf course and to make it work. Because what will end up happening, based on what, from a golf course architecture perspective, is that the number one business that these guys operate in is not just, I mean, I understand it's a game probably to you guys, but at the end of the day, they're in the business of providing member satisfaction, and if the golf course doesn't play the same way as it did before, then their business would suffer as a result. So to that extent, it's a matter of just saying, let's try it this way, and if there has to be some tweaks based on how it gets staked out and how it gets laid out in the field, we just want the flexibility to be able to do that.
So, Jim, is your concern is the area immediately adjacent to the water course?
Yes.
Okay, so, are there particular areas along the water course where, given the play as it currently is configured, where you think it might be, you might need that wiggle room in areas where you might actually be able to do more than 5 feet because it's not part of the play area, or it's not in the line of play?
I think, and I guess I would defer to Jen.
Yeah,
but
so we
yeah.
should, we can.
Yeah, we sure, yeah.
Okay,
So, Jim, so you're like right here, along like where see, that's the cart path, I believe, the red. So right there, that area there, that's, people that can't make it across, the ball lands there.
Yeah.
And, they head over the cat nine tails there, that area, with the water, the kind of like the rules of golf, if it goes in the water, you can drop it 1 club length back, which is about 3 feet. Most people use their driver, which is 42 inches long, so to get over the course. So, we're not asking for the whole thing, just like sort of, if you see the tee box here, just imagine like an imaginary line, not the whole stream in that area, this will be fine, but that is in play, like I said, for.
that's where they gotta get
for
their ball
senior,
over the
they have
water.
to, yeah, so the tee box, I believe that's that's the forward tee, they call it.
Yep.
And then there's these are the back tees for the men, and the seniors and the ladies hit from this one. So some people don't move up soon enough, basically, and they are members, and they, as Michael suggested, it's playability, and the other thing I'm afraid of too, for as far as member satisfaction goes, is it will slow people down looking for their ball in that pollinated area, which, we can, there's other places on the course too, and I don't know if Michael can probably explain it to you better, where we could put it to make up for the 5 feet.
Right.
We could, and he's probably, more qualified to tell you that where.
Right. Yeah, there's certainly other buffer zone areas, there's certain other areas within the golf course itself where if it is a matter of, let's say, moving some area from here, if it is impossible, or we feel like from here, this is an important area to move it, let's say, to other areas like we talked about along 3, where if you could actually scroll up a little bit more, I think we also, and unfortunately, it's the graphic here blocks that, but there's also buffer zone along 3 here too, the third hole along here. So I think the goal here is just to ask, in terms of the order of conditions, if there is any flexibility in terms of providing areas where we can to the extent practicable, and that the goal would be that any place that we're showing in green, we're not looking to reduce the total area, but really more taking a look at saying, is that if, let's say, when we're staking this out, and when we get back into the spring and the irrigation system being installed and the courses being put back together, if it's not necessarily a hard and fast line to say, okay, it's definitely going to be this, which is why we said to the extent practicable. And
Are you talking, which side over here are you talking about?
so we're talking about, so Jim's talking about this side over here.
Right, I wasn't talking about that at all. I thought the 5-foot buffer that you were promising was on the other side, right, yeah, that right there.
Right, so,
Because over on the other side, you already have, it's gonna have a New England province
Right.
mix and.
right, so the idea being is that what we had talked about is that if there was an opportunity to, if in certain areas, like along here, if there was an opportunity or to get 5 feet, we would go for there. This over here too, and then this as well, as far as in terms of making sure that this was, we had some flexibility over here to do that. So in the letter, or the suggested language in item number 26, this is part of a golf course playability area. So as long as we have the flexibility to be able to reshape or reshift that, we can do that. I guess to you, Jim, and to Rodney, are we okay with just keeping this 5 feet on this side at this point?
5 feet on that side is good. The other side, what are you planning? The plan here shows quite a large area, and describes what's gonna be planted, and it's gonna be mowed only a couple of times a year, right?
So it's, again, from a totalitarian standpoint, from an area, it's this area here. This is all in play. So what we're proposing to do is, the whole point we're asking is just to say, if it's not this shape, do we have the ability to maybe shift some of this over so it stays as mown turf grass, so that if people are hitting off this tee, they can have a landing spot over here, but then we're making it up for it in other areas.
And that area where you're talking about returning it to mowed turf grass, that's more than, most of, if not all of it, will be more than 5 feet from the water.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
correct. That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
So it,
You would still definitely maintain a 5-foot buffer along here. It's really about,
Good,
Ba-
that's what I wanna see.
Okay.
That-
Yeah,
that's-
Okay.
yeah, I mean, just to be
Both
clear,
sides.
right, so if I
Both
could
sides,
just show
right?
you the,
yeah.
you
Both
see
sides
the-
of
see
the,
this tee box here?
both sides of
You
the
know,
brook.
just
are gonna have-
imagine, an imaginary line straight towards the water, because that's allegedly the flight of everybody's ball, but doesn't always work out. So, like I said, see this tee box here, a line right to the water, that's where we want to be grass,
So I think what you're saying is that the majority of the flexibility you're looking for is for the area beyond the 5-foot line. In terms of if you need to make some of that,
yes. Correct.
but
That's good.
Yeah,
That's-
and then-
I'm okay with that,
Okay.
Okay.
that,
but right up against the brook, it's still gonna be a 5-foot.
No, it's gonna come
Well-
closer than
Come
5
back.
feet in some areas, and that's the flexibility he wants.
yeah. That there may be areas in the line of
Right.
play where 1 or 2 feet from the brook, but not the 5 feet, because
Right.
that's where people are looking for their
Right.
balls.
But just, if I may, tell you that if it goes in the water, like I explained before, they're gonna go back, 2 feet, 3 feet anyway. So if we have 2 or 3 feet there, and don't forget, we have the cat 9 tails, you can't get through them with a ball. If you hit one of them, you're hitting the ball again.
So they're playing in that 5 feet, Jim,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that buffer. So, if it ends up in that man-made pond or
Yeah.
whatever, somebody's pulling out that ball and they're dropping it a foot or two away
Yeah.
from the stream edge or pond edge,
Mhm.
and they're making their play. But it's in that 5-foot buffer that you want as buffer.
So,
So you're not getting what you want, Jim.
well, not,
You're getting a 5-foot buffer that's gonna be played.
in
certain
portions,
areas.
in certain areas,
we're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to keep the golfers off the 5-foot buffer.
No,
But I think
you're
it
not.
still,
Yeah.
it still should be one, just like the plan says, what's gonna be.
Either that or a little better figured out so you know where those areas less than 5 feet are gonna be. But it seems like any part along that, if somebody shoots it, it drops in the water. They're gonna pick a ball up or they're just gonna drop a ball a foot or two away and play.
Right.
okay. So,
I think, that's the way I get
yeah,
it.
that's how the game's played.
Yeah.
okay. So in terms of figuring out how to move forward, I think some of this is, well, what do people feel about the change in the wording to the extent practicable?
That's fine with me. Can't make it up in another.
I liked when you said that if you moved from some spot, you'd put it somewhere else, you would make up for what you took off somewhere
Correct.
else. Which I don't think is in here, so if that was added in there,
So if there was a language to say any place on the plan of record that was moved, it would be replaced in another
and
location.
somewhere else.
Okay,
Fine with me.
that seems fair.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the order of conditions?
Just be aware that you're playing within that 5-foot buffer anywhere they want to play. It doesn't seem like there's a specific area within that 5 foot that may be closer. It seems like any point could be closer than 5, depending on the play and somebody's need to take a shot.
No, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll pull up the plan again. My understanding is that they are, Microsoft, you got me again. There are going to be areas of, the the buffer strip, that 5-foot buffer strip, but then they're also proposing, some areas of turf grass to play off of. So they're not playing out of, the buffer strip. They're not hitting the ball out of the buffer strip.
Well, it seemed like if that ball dropped in anywhere along that edge of that water there, that somebody would be pulling it out.
Right, but they're-
playing
but they're-
within a foot of that.
But they're going to play back to, they're not going to be playing out of, call it the super rough of a naturalized buffer.
It
Right.
sounded like they were playing out of the super rough.
No.
They weren't taking it back to
No,
some
you're,
predetermined.
if they're taking a drop, they're putting it back
They have
on.
to, right, they would be putting it back to an area that was playable, which
Right.
it's not, so if you're hitting it in the naturalized area.
Are there defined playable areas within that 5-foot buffer area so they can do that drop?
No, that would be beyond the 5-foot,
They
say
would come
on this
back
side,
up.
on the north side of Sawmill, right. There, and again, this is done, in the field with stakes or paint on the ground of, this is out of play, this is in the water, you're now taking a drop, at which point you then, go back from, to Jim's point about, that driver's length, 42 inches, back onto, a playable surface, not playing in the naturalized buffer. I mean, the ball may land in the naturalized buffer, but they're not, hitting out from the naturalized buffer.
So it's really about, the intent is to provide the naturalized buffer where we can, so that, for that purpose, that you're not hitting it out of those areas or playing. We want to disincentivize golfers to get away from the edge of the stream itself with that buffer.
I would want to see a plan that shows what they're intending to build.
Well, and I
That's.
And I think.
I thought this is what was gonna be built and they
I'm with you.
and they re-emphasized the 5-foot buffer on both sides of the stream when we were at the site visit. And if it's not gonna be 5 foot along the stream both sides, where isn't it and why not?
Well, I think you know the why not. But it's like, where
But
are the
what-
locations?
Right, where's the
Are they
location,
closer
where's it
than
gonna be
5
built?
gonna
Where's the 5-foot buffer gonna be?
I think you're gonna want to accommodate, but you just want to know.
Yeah.
So, it's,
Do we need to see that now, or would we want to see in the spring when the irrigation's been replaced, were you now starting to lay out, you had talked about reconstructing the course and laying out where you were going to have the turf, where you were going to have these naturalized grass areas. Would you be creating a plan at that point showing what that new configuration looks like?
Well, we hadn't planned on it only because everything out there right now is mown turf grass. So we
Okay.
thought by presenting this, we would be providing a benefit for your sake. And all we were asking for is flexibility based on item number 26. So based on what we're asking is that, do we have the flexibility? And what we're asking for is the flexibility to say, from a total area perspective, nothing would change. If it's a matter of moving some areas or allowing some mown areas, let's say, you know, a little bit closer than 5 feet maybe in some areas where we're in this line of play right here, either on this side or primarily what we're talking about is on this side, to be able to drop a ball or really, with a really short hit it before the stream and then back over on a second shot. That's really what we're talking about.
So where you're talking about there, from where you've been moving the pointer, it
Yeah.
looks like a lot of the area where you're thinking maybe we need to keep it turf grass is beyond 5 feet
That's correct.
from the edge of the water course.
Yes.
So,
That's okay, beyond 5 feet.
Yeah,
I'm just
so-
trying to
so some-
preserve a 5-foot buffer along both sides.
well, and I think what we're hearing is that there may be, because the line of play goes over this area, there are places where it may not be feasible to have the buffer the entire 5 feet away from the edge of the water course. And if there are areas where they have to be less than 5 feet, you would be looking to do this meadow planting in other locations close to within the buffer zone elsewhere on
To
site.
make up for any
So
shortages.
so that we
are-
get the
Like
same
two
amount
in
of
that whole area.
renaturalization as you're proposing here.
If you,
Actually, if you
could
scroll,
scroll sideways, left, left.
right. So you're talking about anything, let's say, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, right over this whole area here is usually not in play all along here. That's that's another area we can make up, you know, it's,
So that blue is,
it's in the, I guess that's the wetlands part, right?
So
It's considered
the
a
orange
wetland.
line is the bordering vegetated wetland, the blue is the 1% annual flood risk
Yeah.
for bordering land subject to flooding.
And then
So those are,
the
you
picture
know,
covers,
within jurisdictional resources.
so that's some area that right now is not planned to be renaturalized this way, but that is an area where if you need to do compensation,
Correct.
that's someplace you could do compensation.
and again, if you scroll down, Matt, you know, in the back of, I don't know, I guess that picture covers it.
Mhm.
So the third hole goes around the corner and it ends like, you know, here somewhere. And all that, along the side of that, we can, you know, put in the pollinator, you know, make up the pollinator area over there too. You know, which is, you know, it's quite, you know, it goes right down, it's pretty far from the right of the cart path down to the wetlands is quite an area. You know, that's, I don't know if you recall seeing when you were out there some time ago.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the,
You know, you know where that pit is around the corner there? I mean, all that whole area can be pollinator.
Okay.
And the, you know, which is, I think, you know, we're not gonna do, you know, trade math questions of square feet, but it's, I think we'll might more than compensate for any 2-foot, 3-foot differentials.
Okay, so, Matt, with the discussion that's going on, is there anything else that should be added to that language to reflect what we've talked about here, or do you think that pretty much encompasses it?
no, I think that encompasses it.
Didn't we talk about having a place to, if they couldn't do the 5-foot along this area, that it would go someplace else?
Right, that would be amended, and that would be included in there, you know.
Oh, all right.
So,
Yeah,
so that would be a further amendment?
Right, I would include language to that extent,
Okay.
to that effect,
Okay.
in there.
All right,
So,
I could go along with that.
can I have a motion to, well, actually, you're right. Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience? Okay. So, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as amended? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your
Be in
help.
touch.
Okay. Moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item. It's a public hearing and issue order of conditions for Zalm Living LLC, 37 Powers Road.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates, representing ZD Acquisitions LLC. So it's been a couple of weeks since we've been before you last, and I believe there's one item that's remaining that we've been discussing previously, and it revolves around potential PFAS contamination on an adjacent parcel and subsequently on our parcel. Now, what we've done is we commissioned a risk assessment. So McPhail Associates is our licensed site professionals on this project, and they reached out to a toxicologist to run through a risk assessment. And what that risk assessment did was establish a baseline for testing criteria, essentially. So how many parts per trillion creates a condition that would require some level of treatment, if you will. So the letter from Enviro Risk Solutions kind of outlines the methodology utilized and identifies the 1,200 parts per trillion. And what we've done is we've committed to specific language that we shared with Matt for a testing program and treatment program on the irrigation well itself. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to install a treatment system on the irrigation well specific for PFAS. That treatment system will be brought online if testing exceeds 1,200 parts per trillion. The testing will happen at the beginning of the season, so before any irrigation of the year, and then at the midway point. So what we're anticipating irrigation timing to be is 6, 7, 8 months, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we'll test at the beginning in springtime, May probably, and then we would test halfway through, so summer, August, and then at the end of the season when the system has been winterized, nothing happens for the rest of the months. And then next year starts, and we will test again in the springtime. So the 1,200 parts per trillion is our reportable condition, and we will give that information to the commission if that level is exceeded. If that level is not exceeded, we don't have any issues. We're going to continue to irrigate as rain conditions require. So with that, we believe that addresses the concern of the commission, that we will have a testing protocol in place and a treatment protocol in place for the irrigation water. And as such, condition 75 of the revised draft order contains that language, and 74 was the condition previously where we were not going to irrigate at all within the buffer. Because we have this testing protocol, because we have the treatment train as well, we think we should be able to irrigate the entirety of the property, essentially. So we'd like to delete 74 in lieu of what is being provided for 75. With that, I would love to answer any questions if I can.
Jim?
One question. Noel had found a state of Massachusetts DEP test standard for something to do with wells. I don't know what the details of it was. Is that incorporated in your site professional's letter? Is that where the 1,200 worked its way out of?
No, so the 1,200 comes straight out of the MCP, so the Mass Contingency Plan. Method 1, GW3, and then a list of references for all the docs are in the back pages of it, and that's what the toxicologist had used.
So with the 2 times a season testing that you do, there'll be a test log that's tracked what the results are each time.
There will be.
It won't be provided to us, but where will that information be?
No, but my question was, could those test results be provided to Matt, just as, so we have it for our record?
Got an issue with that?
No.
That's fine. We can.
That's fine.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Matt, do you have anything?
Just, I guess, if the commission is amenable to special condition 75 as written, just that I mean, to the kind of your point about the sample results, just include in a sentence that the sample results be provided with, annually at the end
So
of
the
the year.
commission would say, you know, what,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
listed in, yeah.
Right, and my other thought would be that this be the specific language that is elsewhere for conditions in perpetuity be added to this, just so it does outlive the order.
What about
It
the,
was scratching 74.
Yeah, if the commission's
Yeah.
amenable to that
Okay.
as well, again.
no?
And Madam Chair, we're happy to make that addition to 75, and if we omit 74, there is a finding, I think it's like page 2 or 3, that we just need to rework to omit the finding language regarding 74 as well, so.
Yes. Just the first finding on page 10B, that the commission finds that the landscaping outside of the jurisdictional wetland buffer will be irrigated by an on-site private well. Just delete the
Yeah.
portion outside of the jurisdictional wetland buffer, so that the landscaping will be irrigated by an on-site private well.
Noel, you have a question?
Well, I'm sure this organization is coming, they know what they're talking about, but look in the mass. EFA S6 standards, it says 20 ng per liter.
So 20 parts per trillion is drinking water.
Yes.
Oh, no, this is non-potable water.
Yeah, this is GW3. That's probably about a GW1, GW2.
What's that?
Groundwater.
Groundwater standing.
Oh, this is public drinking, actually,
Yes.
that's non-potable. Okay.
And-
But whatever, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a professional
Yes.
standard, that's fine.
Correct.
And just to your point, sorry, for the record, Attorney Melissa Robbins for the applicant, that's why we went through the exercise of getting somebody to come in to find the number, because the numbers that are available to us are for potable water. So Eric had raised the point, I think, at the last meeting about what standard we use, so we went to find the standard and then drafted the condition around it. And that's why we included the letter with our proposed condition.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience? Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as amended?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
okay. Moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item is a public hearing for 219 Littleton Road LLC. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, for the record, Brian Gaudreau with Hancock Associates, on behalf of Jack and Clara Farmstead LLC, otherwise known as Kimball's Farm. So I guess the
Oh,
crux.
I'm sorry, you're right, I read the wrong one. 7:15 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of a public hearing for Jack and Clara Farmstead LLC, 400 Littleton Road. So I was getting ahead of myself.
Sorry. So I don't have much of a presentation this evening. It's my understanding that we're gonna be discussing the site walk that hasn't happened, basically because there's too much snow out there. So happy to do that. The only thing that I would like to point attention to do is that we received a no-take letter from Natural Heritage. So following our notice of intent filing, we filed with Natural Heritage, and they reviewed our plans and issued a no-take without conditions. And I did provide that to Matt for the record.
In the meantime.
So,
Thoughts on the, again, kind of to the commission, thoughts on moving forward with a site walk. Again, I know at the opening public hearing, the applicant's representative discussed additional other outstanding orders of conditions. And, the site walk would be an opportunity to kind of review multitude, both the application before the commission and also kind of the outstanding work to resolve. Again, where we have the present snow cover that we do, and, I wanted to get the commission's thoughts in terms of what would the commission entertain a site walk for the application specific with, kind of assurances from the representatives that they'll be coming back, providing the punch list of what needs to be done for those, myriad of, I think it was 3 or 4 orders of conditions, kind of to follow up and resolve. Again, not ignoring it, but just kind of focusing on the application at hand and the commission's thoughts.
People fine with segmenting the sidewalks?
What's the plan?
Is to segment so that the first sidewalk with snow still on the ground will be to look at the locations of the current proposed project,
Okay,
with a subsequent sidewalk to visit,
the old orders.
see the locations impacted by the outstanding orders.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
So if the commission's amenable, can certainly schedule something in the next, before the commission's next meeting on the 25th.
okay. Any comments or questions from members of the audience on this project? No. Okay, so continue the public hearing to the 25th?
Yes.
And that works for you, Brian?
It does.
Okay. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to February 25th? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item. It's a public hearing for 219 Littleton Owner LLC for 219 Littleton Road.
Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 11th, 2026 at 7:20 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the notice of intent application of 219 Littleton Owner LLC for removal of an existing hotel structure and associated parking areas and construction of pedestrian paths, parking areas, garages, amenity spaces, access drive, and 2 multifamily residential buildings, portions of which are within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands and bordering land subject to flooding, and 200 feet of Vine Brook at 219 Littleton Road, Assessors Map 17, Parcel 2, Lot 0.
Good evening. My name is Katie Cruz. I'm a civil engineer with Hancock Associates, representing the developer Redgate. This evening. Matt, I wonder, do you have the slides that we
I'm trying to get through your stormwater report.
And so they weren't attached to the end of our NOI. We had sent them separately.
Yeah,
but-
that's what I'm
Oh, okay, got it. Got it.
forgetting.
All right. I'll-
300 pages of this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of, 300 pages of a stormwater report.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay, too?
Yeah.
Okay.
That mic is only for Westford Cable Access TV that's broadcasting it live. So what we hear is what you speak.
Okay, let me know if you can't hear me then.
Okay.
So just a brief overview of the project. This is a multifamily development. The project has been filed with the planning board. We had our first public meeting with them last week. They have hired Ty and Bond as a civil peer reviewer. So they will be reviewing the stormwater system design. I think you're all probably familiar with this site, the Regency, but I wanted to give a quick overview. It is surrounded by Littleton Road to the south, Cornerstone Square to the east, Route 495 to the north, and a system of wetlands to the west. The site is 21 acres About 10 acres of that is currently developed in upland area. Most of the developed area is impervious. It's comprised of a lot of surface parking, the Regency building, the historic house close to Littleton Road. And there is a lot of wetland area on the site, which is shown in green on this plan. Vine Brook runs through the western portion of the site from north to south, and there's bordering vegetated wetlands associated with that, shown in green. There's also a smaller wetland area kind of midway through the north side of the developed area, which was built as a stormwater basin but has become wetlands. That was built when the Regency went in the 80s. And then there's another system of BBW on the east side that crosses the property line onto Cornerstone Square. Within that wetland on the Cornerstone Square property, there's a certified vernal pool. This project will demolish the Regency building. The historic house in the front will remain. And there's some other site components that will remain, such as there's a lot of large mature trees kind of in the northwest portion of the parking area. Our goal is to keep as many of those as possible. And another mature tree near the historic house. In the existing condition, there aren't really many provisions for stormwater management, even though that there's a lot of paved area located very close to the wetlands. The limits of pavement are shown in the blue line on this plan. So there's a lot of catch basins and pipes, several outfalls to the wetland systems, but really no provisions for stormwater treatment or mitigation. And most of the northwest portion of the parking lot actually drains by sheet flowing directly to the wetlands associated with Vine Brook. So we are looking to improve that condition, and this project gives us an opportunity to do that.
I'm having a little hard time.
Okay,
here.
I'll speak up. Thank you. We can go to the next slide. We may need to zoom in a bit. So
What number is it, C2?
It's a pointer.
Yeah, again, this is just a graphical.
I'm just trying to be on the
An
same.
envelope, yeah.
yeah,
This is actually not part of the plan set, this is part of the slides that are at the end of your packet. So this is a rendered site.
Okay.
okay. The project will include 2 new multifamily buildings. Those are the larger buildings shown in white. Each of those will have 150 units. There will be 5 enclosed parking garages. Those are the white rectangles along the north and east sides. And then, like I mentioned, the historic house will remain. The project will utilize the existing curb cut, the main entrance off of Littleton Road. It'll close the second curb cut, but it will introduce an emergency access only curb cut next to Cornerstone Square. And then there is surface parking and driveways to access the site and provide circulation throughout the site, including emergency vehicle turning. There are a number of outdoor amenity spaces proposed as part of the project. One is a wellness pathway that loops around the perimeter of the site. It starts at the main entrance, loops along the Vine Brook side. Most of it will be stone dust or another permeable material. And then kind of in the back of the central building, we refer to that building as Building A. There are outdoor amenity spaces, including a pickleball court, dog park playground, some exercise areas, some hammocks, and then that walkway continues around the northern edge of the site, and it goes behind the C-shaped building, which we refer to as Building B, along the wetlands there, and then back out towards the historic house. That walkway will be open to the public And it's intended to give the public a way to observe the wetlands and appreciate them. It's about 2/3 of a mile long. And there will, I guess, enclosed within the building A is also an outdoor courtyard that will have a pool and amenities for the residents. And the project is a redevelopment, including under the Massachusetts stormwater standards. There will be about a 1/2 acre reduction in impervious area. And that does not include the permeable surfaces for the pathways and porous pavement, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it really is a true redevelopment, especially in that we're going to maintain important features on the site, such as the house and mature trees.
Such as the house and what?
The mature trees, which if you could go back
Still-
up a
still-
slide.
still
The mature trees.
Oh,
There's, at the first slide, I think it was just cut off because we weren't zoomed in enough, there's actually some pictures of the stands of trees that they're trying to keep. So there's some of them.
Yeah.
So in the rear, I don't have an arrow here, so the back rear left, here we are, pointer.
Right here,
Yes,
back around
so
here.
there's existing trees there that you can see the picture of in the top right, that we're trying to maintain and keep on site. So those are actually mimicking the existing site conditions and keeping those trees. And then towards the front of the site, I don't know if, is there a picture of that one on the bottom?
No.
So right behind the historic home, there's a pretty large tree, and we're trying to maintain that one as well. So those are the large trees that we're trying to maintain.
So there are several resource areas on the site, and we thought that it would probably help to understand where they are to break them out separately. So this plan shows the buffer zones to the wetland. So the wetland line is shown in green, the 100-foot buffer zone line is shown in purple, the 55-foot no-build line is shown in yellow, and the 30-foot limit of work line is shown in pink. And I realize that the no build is actually called limit of build, I apologize. So a lot of these areas are currently developed in the existing condition. A lot of them are paved parking areas or driveways used for vehicles. In all locations, we are pulling the parking further away from the wetlands and replacing those areas with uses that are a lot more amenable to the wetlands, such as we're replacing pavement with roof area, which would have clean runoff, or we're replacing pavement with landscaped areas or permeable surfaces. And in no cases are we having stormwater drain directly to the wetlands like it does in the existing condition without being treated first. And again, the blue line is the existing edge of pavement on this plan. If we could go to the next slide, please. This slide shows the riverfront areas on the site. The Vine Brook, the banks of Vine Brook are shown in lime green. The 100-foot inner riparian zone is shown in purple, and the 200-foot riverfront area is shown in teal. So that overlays the western portion of the development. Again, we are keeping the proposed development approximately within the footprint of the current development, so we are disturbing areas that are previously degraded. There are some small portions of the walking path along the perimeter that extend a little bit beyond the existing edge of pavement that are shown in orange on this plan. And we are offsetting those by replicating areas that are currently disturbed and turning them back to vegetated areas as shown in green. And that's at a ratio of 1.8 to 1 within the inner riparian zone. And then lastly, the next slide shows bordering land subject to flooding associated with Vine Brook. This is a FEMA A zone, so the elevation is not defined by FEMA. So we did a flood study to determine that elevation, and that included analyzing the watershed that contributes to this portion of Vine Brook, the rainfall data, the topography and size of the channel, and the topography of the surrounding area. So the limits of the flood zone are shown in the green line on this plan. The flood zone does not extend onto the current developed area, and we are not proposing any work within the flood zone. So it exists on the site, but we're not touching it. Next, I would like to touch on the stormwater design, which is a fairly robust system. Like I said, this is really an opportunity to improve a condition where there's a lot of untreated stormwater draining to the wetlands. The components, and as this is a redevelopment, we're proposing to meet the stormwater standards to the maximum extent practicable. And it's really given site constraints. This is a very wet site with high groundwater. And given that we are aiming to maintain features within the existing site, like the existing tree and the historic house, that sort of limited what we could do from an elevation standpoint for stormwater design. So we've proposed 2 systems of chambers. Those are shown in purple. Those are subsurface stormwater chambers. And those are located in an area where we really have the separation to groundwater from finished grade that's needed to fit those in there. So we fit in as many as we could to provide as much recharge volume as possible. They'll collect water from all of Building A, all of the parking areas between the 3 buildings, and some of the parking area to the east of, and the northeast corner of the site. They'll treat water with isolator rows, so those will be chambers wrapped in filter fabric within the chamber systems. The area highlighted in green is a rain garden, so that will also provide stormwater treatment. And then there will be catch basins with deep sumps and hoods upstream of that. The areas shown in blue are porous pavement, and Matt, I know you forwarded some questions about that. So I kind of wanted to explain how that works a little bit. So what it is, it's a layer of permeable pavement, so it looks like pavement, but if you were to dump water on it, the water would go straight through. Under that is a filter layer of sand, and then below that there's a layer of crushed stone, which is almost like an underground detention basin, kind of like how the chambers work. And within that crushed stone, there's a perforated pipe so that can drain any water that doesn't infiltrate in those areas. The reason that we selected this as a BMP is because we have really shallow depths to groundwater. And this gives us an opportunity to provide the recharge volume as well as stormwater treatment through the filter layers and through the soil beneath the system. So those are shown in blue. You can see they're located in areas where we want to keep the trees and we want to keep the historic house. So that's kind of what we felt was the best we could do in those areas. The last component, the last BMP that's proposed is used in the northeast corner of the site. Those are proprietary filter systems that go in catch basins. So every BMP on this site that's proposed is a filter system. So that addresses the hydrocarbons and oils, TSS removal, phosphorus. Filter system BMPs are kind of the best BMPs for treating water, rather than the kind of that spin water around and collect the oil on the top and the sediment at the bottom. So this is, a really great improvement for treating water. We tried to approximate sending about the existing amount of water to the wetlands that drains to them now, because we don't want to dry them out. We don't want to inundate them. So we're trying to mimic the existing drainage patterns that way. We're adding one new stormwater outfall that's shown in yellow in the lower left part of the plan. And that's to address the area that currently sheet flows. There's a large area that sheet flows off-site. We can't do that anymore. So we're adding a pipe system that'll have a riprap settling basin and a level spreader. So that will provide energy dissipation for the runoff, and it will protect from erosion downstream. Next slide is grading. There were a few factors that kind of drove the grading design. One of them is meeting existing grades around the perimeter of the site. Another is meeting existing grades around the mature trees in the historic house. One is to provide ADA accessibility along walkways and handicap parking spaces. And the last is to provide positive drainage, so downhill drainage towards the drainage system. And then I'll touch briefly on utilities. This site, it currently has a wastewater treatment facility, which is basically, I think you know about it from Zom, but it's a very large septic system. That's also proposed for this site. That's shown in orange. Those are the leaching fields on this plan. That will be reviewed by Mass DEP, and it actually has already started that approval process. Mass DEP has approved the hydrogeologic study, which shows that the system will not impact the wetlands and that there are appropriate site conditions for that system. In addition to that, there will be new water services, new electric services. And then lastly, I wanted to touch on the landscaping, which if we could zoom in a little bit more to the rendered plan.
This one?
Yes, please. So the site will include over 275 new trees. I thought that was a really exciting number. These will all be native species or species that are on the recommended list that Westford published, the Westford Tree and Invasive Species Inventory. All the shrubs, perennials, seed mixes, they're all either native or from that list. And there's a lot of them. There will be, there's going to be a lot less pavement, so there's going to be a lot more landscaped areas. And they're kind of selected to be appropriate for the areas where they're proposed on the site. So the areas around the wetlands will be replacing pavement with the meadow seed mixes, and which include wildflowers and will provide pollinator habitats. In the, along the pathway around the site, there will be trees, so it's meant to be kind of a woodland feeling with a shaded pathway. And then if we could go to the next slide. There's a few other features proposed to just kind of help the public feel connected to the wetlands that are on this site, and also kind of provide an opportunity for wildlife to thrive. So that would include bird houses and pollinator homes. It includes pollinator gardens. It includes signage for the wetlands and for the existing tree groves, and it provides places for the public to rest and enjoy the wetlands and the nature, as well as the walking pathway. I think that's it. Is there anything you think I should
Yeah,
add?
Katie did mention, but stormwater did go out to Ty and Bond for review, but we don't have that report back. As soon as the report comes back, we'll share it with Mr. Salem and the commission.
Is that actual locations for things, like the pollinator homes would be that close to Or would they be more like where the pollinator garden is? I say only because people have issues with bees, unfortunately, so if they see pollinator homes right next to where they're walking, they might destroy them.
No, I think these were just general locations to
Okay.
share that these are features that the developer wants to include.
I think it's great to include them.
Yeah.
Point well taken.
Location, location,
Yes.
location. Jim?
You usually ask about snow storage,
I'm letting you guys have your say first.
but I think this looks like you need to know where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, and actually, I fed my questions to Matt, so I think you've had some previews of some of what's gonna get us. Eric?
So my question was, or questions pertain to predominantly building B. I mean, right now that area is parking. So, you know, the setbacks we have for parking are different than structures. And, you know, I'm looking at, you know, the yellow line being the 50-foot no disturb. So I've got some building within the 55-foot no disturb in an area that just has parking. And, you know, predominantly, most of that building is within the 100, which would be a good portion of that in our 75-foot no build. So while I can see building A because of the existing building, I'm surprised by all the work in this area with building B, which currently only has parking, so it has, you know, different setback requirements.
If I may, so the language of the rules and regulations specifies altered, you know, and, you know, a parking area, you know, regardless of, you know, it's not parking versus building, it's, you know, was it altered and when was it altered? You know, so if it was.
If somebody had a parking space 5 feet away from the wetland, we wouldn't allow them to put a structure 5 feet away from the wetland because it was previously parking there.
Right, no, and so that's why, you know, if I may, the setbacks as shown are the 30-foot and 55 as opposed to 50 and 75.
Yeah, but
Which
where
would
does
be-
it say 55 for a structure for an altar? Do we have that? Is that a setback requirement? And still, even if that's the case, they're within inside of it.
Right, and that was, again, in terms of.
No, I mean, I'm just bringing
getting-
this up as, you know,
Right, and
I see
my goal
somebody
for the
in
commission-
building A, and I'm like, okay, because, you know, there is already some existing incursion there. But, you know, B was nothing but, you know, forced it until we cut it down not too long ago because there was a requirement, they said they needed additional parking. So additional parking was put there, and it was predominantly just, you know, forested area, and now we're looking to build there.
So.
I mean, one of the last things to occur on that site was the removal of that wooded area to put in that additional parking that we were told at the time was necessary.
So here's the, oh, God,
Yeah.
every time. The setbacks from the Commission's Wetlands Rules and Regulations. So
So still, when I look at that, I'm still, work is occurring closer than, if I'm reading that correctly.
Right, and that was, you know, my goal for the commission, you know, before kind of getting into, you know, snow storage plans and all that, it's, you
Yeah,
know,
no,
what's
I
the
see bigger
commission's
issues
thoughts
than
on,
snow storage right here.
Right, right.
I mean, that's just
What's the com-
addressing on, you know.
what's the commission's thoughts on the proposed location of Building B? And its proximity, and its location within, portions of it within the 55 feet to the delineated wetland resource.
I don't know if they've considered it, but I just want to make sure that they do.
So at this point, you're giving feedback. Joel, did you have a,
Yeah, is there a swimming pool plan for this?
Yeah, it's right there.
function?
Yes, it's located within Building A, like within the envelope, so you can see it right there. Yes, so that's where the swimming pool is.
And it's an outdoor pool.
Yes.
And that purple line, what's that, 75?
That's the 100-foot buffer zone.
I'd be happier with the building further away from the resource and parking a little closer if need be, instead of building right on top of the resource. You know, just a general comment, because I could see areas here where the building could be modified, you could have parking, it wouldn't be so tight up against that resource area right there.
so you'd rather have, what you're saying is you'd rather see more parking between the resource and the building rather than the building being closer to the resource than the parking?
Yeah, something to be considered. I think we have better ways to treat the runoff and all of that. And, you know, stormwater is a big component right now, and, you know, that was discussed at some extent here. And I just see we have opportunities there. So, yeah, it would be my preference to move buildings further away and have parking a little closer, which is pretty much the way our regulations are. We allow parking closer to the resource and permanent structures, you know, not as close. So I would just try to be keeping with our current standards.
Jim?
To the extent we
Erica,
can.
what you're talking about, kind of shifting, swapping the building with the parking? That?
I'm just saying, right now, the building is, you know, typically we would allow parking closer to the resource with treatment, yeah, so I'd be pulling the building further away from that resource area. I mean,
So the building-
right now, it just seems too close, it's too tight in there. Both of the buildings hug it.
So outside the 100, you think?
No, I don't think he needs to get outside of the 100, but right now, the buildings are in the 55.
The reasons.
So move slightly west, you're saying?
Yeah, and maybe, you know, you take those areas and, you know, accommodate them with parking or whatever, you know, if they need it. I know that parking was always tight on the site. So I'm not saying forego parking, because they probably can't do that.
If I may, I think parking has a lot more potential to introduce pollutants to the wetland than roof area does. Parking obviously has cars on it, vehicles that can drop oils, sediment, that sort of thing. And that's why we provide so much treatment for parking areas, because it is a messy surface. And it's, you know, being located closer to the wetlands has a lot more opportunity to harm the wetlands than roof area, which these would all have roof drains, and roof area is clean area that's defined within the Massachusetts stormwater standards. And it's a way that we can actually clean up the area around the wetlands by removing this parking that's so close to the wetlands, and replacing it with landscaped areas and permeable surfaces, and we're really trying to improve the area around the wetlands. I know that the buildings cross over that 55-foot line. That's the line in yellow on this plan. It kind of goes in and out of them, but it's really a much better condition than the current condition.
I would just say to that, then, you know, just move the buildings back and skip the parking in front then. You know, there's gotta be a way to move those buildings back out of our 55. Now, I could have accommodated parking there, but I'd be happy saying no parking either. And I heard you say about, you know, parking and stuff dripping off, but that's why we have the stormwater features that we do, to make sure we clean up that water. And there are reasons why we don't want permanent structures so close.
Are these little bump outs on the building, are those patios or those decks.
Yeah.
So in fact, what you're doing is you're actually putting a lot of living space within that 30-foot no build, and in some cases within the 30-foot, and it just, that also becomes a very intensive use close to the resource area. And that's one of the reasons we want things set back, is because we can treat for oils and pollutants that fall on the pavement. We can't necessarily treat for what happens when people are when their living space is that close to the resource area.
Yeah, they typically get used and compromised and degraded, because people see that opportunity and they want to use that space. And we've just seen that over the years that happens. So to the extent possible, we try to move things back and, try to keep visual buffers or whatever. Because, we've seen it on other sites. It just does get degraded. And while we're not there to be on top of it, and as much as you could put something in an order of condition to try to address it, in real life it doesn't happen, and it gets degraded.
Can you maybe just type of degradation that you're concerned about associated with living spaces? These are rental units. There will be on-site maintenance, and it'll be maintained. It won't just be the people that are living in the units that are responsible for maintenance. The site.
No, but I'm thinking, people are, in terms of the use of the outdoor spaces, you're out there with your kids' toy equipment, you're sitting out there, there's foot traffic that can wear down your grass surfaces, et cetera. It just...
You've got people maintaining that area and then maintaining it more, and they will want to maintain it because we've seen it at other places.
It just... There are things that can't be controlled. People want to use that space as an extension of their living space. And yeah, it's nice to be outside and doing stuff, but if you're close to the resource area, if you're very congested, then that ground surface is going to get much more heavy usage.
It's like the physical incursion into that area where there's no barrier.
Well, using it as an extension of your living space and season, and there's there's going to be a lot of activity there that's going to
Stuff is going to end up in there. I've seen it, like the one off of West Street. There was a development back in there some time ago, and I remember I was doing site visits, and it was close up to resort, and it just gets used. People create their own paths, their own play areas. You just can't stop kids from doing what kids do, and
they go out. Yeah, people are exploring, they're investigating, they're
cutting, they're building forts, they're doing all sorts of things that kids like to do, and I can't say that that's such a bad thing. It's just probably not the right thing right here.
Is what, that's not the use
that we would want to see here.
That's not the type of activity that we want in these no build. We want to provide a buffer to the resource area, and so that people can enjoy those activities outside that buffer, or that no disturb zone. And that's where our concern is coming from.
And just to be clear, we're talking about that area between the yellow and the orange on this plan.
Yeah, actually, Eric.
Inside of the seat.
Okay.
So Eric, are you concerned with the area inside what's called, is it pink or orange?
The 30-foot notice, are you concerned?
That's the 30, and then the other, that was the 55, I believe.
Yes.
So where, can you quantify
I was more in B because B hasn't had any building or any structure or anything, it's only parking. You know, to the extent that's what already been done with A, I mean, if they're meeting similar setbacks, you know, that would probably be allowable. I'd love to see it pulled back. But on B, there's nothing there. So it's like, hey, you know, all of a sudden, what gives you, you know, what makes you think you could be so close to the resource area with your building? You know, you're, in this case, closer to the 55, and those decks are even closer. You know, so then you're within the 55 to the 30. And yeah, you just know that area is going to get utilized.
So you're saying that building B has a greater intensification of the use close to the resource area than building A does? No, wait, you're saying that with building A, with what that area looks like today, building A is not.
I'd have to look at that further and see if they're, you know, look at building, what's there and see how the yellow and, you know, see what the setbacks look like. I didn't do that analysis to see if it's any less or any greater. But B instantly stuck out
So
because
you're
there's
saying
no
that.
building there.
Okay, so B is, because there's no building in B's location now, it's an intensification of use closer to the resource area. You haven't looked at.
A, sufficiently enough to really see, okay, you know, how much more intrusive is the new plan than the old one in the location of building A versus, you know, the Regency. But I know that there's nothing in the B location right now, so that one really stuck out to me. So when, you know, when you were asking for, you know, initial comments, that was my initial comment.
Okay, yeah, because I'm looking at this stone dust walking trail, and especially up near north of building A, I mean, it's coming within 10 feet of the wetlands at that lowest corner. You know, it's great that there are walkable, permeable paths for people to really see and enjoy the naturalized area around them. But we really, you know, when you think about the usage that we see on trails, stuff that just gets discarded or whatever, you know, we know that can happen, and having it happen that close to the resource area is what we don't want to see. The other question that I had while I'm talking about that path is, I'm assuming that's intended to be in use year-round? And what would be the plan for treating snow and ice on it, or removing snow and ice on it?
So the plan would be to close
Okay.
access in the winter months, to close it in the winter.
Okay. I did have another question about the porous pavement, where you had talked about pavement where the water can flow through it. Then below that, there's a level of sand, and below that, there's crushed stone. If there are petroleum products and other pollutants that get washed through that pavement, then the treatment sounds like it's going to be the sand absorbing those things, those pollutants, and so they will live there in perpetuity, and the level of those pollutants that accumulates in the sand would basically just continue to increase over time?
So the way that the porous works is there's a kind of a two-step treatment. So the first step is the sand layer that's below the pavement. And then it's really like a detention pond underground. So it has that second step for treatment as well, which has the separation to groundwater that's required. And kind of the nice thing about porous pavement as a BMP is it's such a big BMP. Like it's such a wide area of the filter, as opposed to if we were to collect it in a catch basin and send it through a filter system, it would be a lot more concentrated that way.
But
So
would the filter system have a replaceable filter?
it would, but things flow laterally and it would be spread out over a much larger BMP. And again, it gets the treatment again through the infiltration below the system.
I just, I mean, I'm being cognizant of the time and, that this has raised a lot of questions. Well, yeah, it just, and,
Well, you can ask the audience if they have any questions, and then let's just continue it.
okay. Yeah, so we're not, okay, so let's do that. Do any members of the audience have comments or questions on this project? No? Okay, so, I guess you've heard some of the feedback from us. We actually have more questions. I have fed mine in through Matt, so that they have a chance to review them before the meeting. If other people have questions as well, if you can feed those into Matt, I think that will make the next discussion maybe be more, as
No, I think this was a productive discussion.
Yeah.
We got some good things out on the table, and I certainly understand the project better now than I did before.
Okay,
So, all good.
so in terms of coming back to us for the next year, the next time you're before us, there's February 25th or the first meeting in March, which would be March 11th.
I guess depends on when you would send us comments.
Right, if it's the intention for staff to give us more comments that we can be responsive to on the 25th, we could certainly come back on the 25th and answer those questions. And then for the following meeting in March, we should have our stormwater report, so we can get deeper into the stormwater and the third-party review. So I think if we go to the next meeting, that would be great, because we can answer some of the questions we weren't able to this evening.
I lost the timeline of this. The timeline.
The time, so we just opened the planning board meeting, so peer review consultants just went out. So we don't have our initial review for stormwater for tie and bond yet. But I think we still have some general questions we can answer for the commission at the next meeting. So I think if the commission will allow, Madam Chair, I would ask that we continue to the next meeting so we can continue to answer these questions. And then for the following meeting, we should have a stormwater review as well.
Okay. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to February 25th? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our 7:30 PM agenda item. It's a public hearing for 50 Lakeshore Drive North. Jim?
Yep.
I think Noel
Mass
has.
General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171. Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 11, 2026, at Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall 55 Main Street to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Andrew Lusagian for the removal of 5 trees within 100 feet of Nabnasset Lake bank and bordering land subject to flooding at 50 Lakeshore Drive North, Assessors Map 77, Parcel 50, Lot 0.
Good evening.
Your name for the record and
Andrew Lusiglia.
brief overview of your request.
So there are 5 trees that are on the property that are marked X's there, and they're trees that we would like to remove. They're old and dead, and one tree down by the existing structure to the bottom left of that is actually growing into the house. The roots are on the house itself. And we'd like to remove them, and so would our neighbors, because they
Matt, we
become
got
fall.
any pictures or anything? Or trees
I
are,
did
or-
submit some pictures.
Yeah, it should be, yeah,
There you go.
And
It's a summer cottage, it's a camp. not a year-round house.
And the commission may recall that a couple meetings ago, the abutter to the west at 52 Lakeshore Drive North, as part of their request for determination of applicability to construct a deck, they also requested permission to remove a couple trees along the property line. I don't know if the photos.
So the picture before, we were looking at like 5 trees. Are all those trees that I was looking at, didn't get removed right there?
Yes.
So all those 5 are gone?
Yes, these would be the 5. Again, the 2 here, 1 at the house as presented is impacting the house. And then those.
Any trees being planted anywhere?
We've had that discussion, as you know, typically the commission requires a 1-to-1 replacement that is of species that may not grow to be such tall pines. Additionally, in reviewing the meeting packet and the property, the septic system at this property was replaced in 2019, and 2 oak trees were proposed to be removed as part of the tank installation there. I didn't know if those had been planted or.
Yeah, I don't think so. So we
Just
we
if we're going to, if the commission's going to entertain, replacing having trees planted for, the ones with which are proposed to be removed. I'd also submit to the commission a condition that these 2, that 2 be planted this growing, by June 30th this year, and then whatever growing season the trees are removed that same year, trees be planted. So if, the tree removal occurs next year, the majority of the trees are removed, but those two trees with which we're supposed to, as part
I
of.
just want to see some 1-to-1, that's all.
Yep.
pretty small lot. So
Yeah.
7 new trees.
Matt, can you go back to the,
A lot of them are though, and
What?
you notice the way they are.
The plan,
yeah.
okay.
Do we, in terms of, yeah, I guess the whole lots in the buffer zone, so it just.
Majority, again,
Yeah.
the 100
it's
foot.
just- Yeah, making sure it's not impacting your utility lines, make sure it's not impacting your septic system, but yeah. So, would you want to see a plan showing where the plantings will be?
No,
once-
I would just, if the commission would entertain a condition that species and locations shall be reviewed and approved by the commission or its agent in advance.
Okay,
Again, with the one condition for the 2 trees or being planted this season, or at the beginning of this growing season, and the balance for any removed be planted within the same growing season.
okay. So, that's going to be a conditional negative determination, which is a good thing. So it means that it's a negative determination, you don't have to do a subsequent filing that gets into more detail. The conditions is just things that Matt was talking about that will be part of the approval. So can I have a motion to issue a conditional negative determination?
Audio, I mean, you're,
Oh, I'm sorry,
he's next.
Good.
He's next.
There you go.
okay.
I'm new to the same thing, so absolutely, I'm okay. Except I.
So can I have okay, motion for conditional negative determination. All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? All those in favor?
Aye.
So Matt will be in touch with the paperwork.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on to our 7:35 PM agenda item, it's a public hearing for 40 Lakeshore Drive South.
Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, at 7:35 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Mark Weary for the removal of 6 trees within 100 feet of Nabnasset Lake bank and bordering land subject to flooding at 40 Lake Shore area South, Assessors Map 73, Parcel 38, Lot 0.
Hi, I'm Mark Weary. I just moved in 5 months ago, and I was told by my insurance that I need to make sure that there's no limbs above the house. And since then, I've had 3 hit the house, so I'm like, yep, I agree. So I actually had Matt out for a different project. I've got a retaining wall that's cracked, so I'm still trying to find an engineering firm that will help me with that so that I can do that. And we talked about the trees. You advised getting a arbiter. Yes. Sorry, it's getting late. Out, so I had one come out, and he took a look at the trees, and there's a letter. And he recommended taking out 6 trees because certainly, you know, when we start limiting what's above the house, they're gonna lose a lot of what's, you know, they're all on one side. And the one that's in the far right corner actually has limbs over the house next door. So, you know, when they do the same thing, and they moved in a year ago, from what I'm told, that's that. So, and there's more limbs that are falling. So, that's what I'd like to do.
So he wants to take the trees, he wants to take the stumps. We're gonna have locations for other plantings.
It doesn't look like there's a lot of open area.
The retaining wall is about 25 feet at the most from the house, from the corner. It's about 12 feet from the sunroom.
Back down here. Yeah, and so the retaining wall is the top of the south side of Nab slope. It's steep, goes down quick. Again, part of, our kind of initial discussion on site was, process for the retaining, to replace the retaining wall and all the stairs going down to the water, and kind of the process for that. So there is more work on the site. Again, I hate to require things be planted that then, end up having maybe impacted by, work for the retaining wall.
From the pictures, it doesn't look like there's any place up around the house that makes sense for
Not
anything.
much either.
No.
Yep.
Not for trees.
And on the slope, it's well forested and just too steep.
Yep.
There's about 10 trees. Somebody asked the question, so I went down last night and looked. There's about 10 trees, if you go back to the map. So if you look at the right-hand side where there's the 4 trees, there's about 10 pine trees between the retaining wall right there, and I started counting. There's well over 30 trees, in the entire plot land that are all on the.
This might be a case where we don't need to put in
ground cover.
I liked your idea of honeysuckles. You said
Yeah, he asked about. He was concerned about things growing underneath pines. I Google searched. There was a honeysuckle and a
cranberry,
high bush cranberry, which isn't a cranberry. There are options, and certainly we can.
It doesn't have to be a tree. I mean, it can be other plantings. We'd just like to see something.
I don't object to that. My only concern is, will it survive with the lack of sunlight? So that's my concern. And
I think they were partial. I think some were some sun to partial sun. Again, you also do get south exposure.
I see lots of stuff that grows in the shade.
Yeah, I think it would be something
I'm
to.
sure there should be some ground cover or something like that. That might be
a
suitable alternative to,
some
1-to-1.
Yeah, some, but not trees, but some shrubs.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I just want to do that. I don't want to put them in and destroy them with retaining them.
Right. I mean, the approval's for 3 years, so
Yep.
within 3 years, plant them, and again, we can kind of revisit this again if you have your
You have a question?
plan for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also just say, I don't think that they should all be cut to stumps. I think some of them should be left. Some of the trees, some of the fatter trees should be left up for habitat. Also, because of your slope, I don't know, like are you wanting to stump grind? Like, you don't want to get rid of the root system.
I don't think
because
you were
you've got a
proposing to remove the stumps.
I would like
he's
to,
proposed- he's
I would like to
proposing-
remove the stumps, but the
Oh.
stumps are north, they're on the flat land north of the,
But when you say
Right.
remove, are you talking about grounding them or pulling them out of the ground?
I don't really want to pull them out of the ground, I'd like to
That's-
keep the root system, thank you.
Well, that's-
I'd like to have the house stay where it is.
I don't want the root system messed up.
Well,
'cause
and
yeah,
that's,
you're
that
gonna-
was,
Especially on this area right here, there's yet another steep area, like the stumps need to stay in this picture. The stumps that are closer to the house that are on the flatlands, there's a reasonable, I have another picture that's in the snow. Can you scroll, actually, that's not a bad picture right there. You can see, those are the furthest two trees. I want to do something so that the area can be used, right?
okay, so if you just want the stump clear, what you're really saying is you want the stump cleared level with the ground,
That's fine.
not pulled out of the
And
ground.
it will eventually rot, yep.
Yeah. One of the things that we normally do is the lower portion of a trunk once you've cut the tree and as it rots, it creates wildlife habitat and stuff like that. I guess my only concern would be the proximity to the house for these trees.
I wouldn't butt log these so close to the house.
Okay,
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
but if down the road we're looking, well, I guess we don't want to go looking for trouble in terms of, in the future, if there are more trees that start dropping branches.
Yeah, let's
Does
take
it
care of
look-
these 6.
Did the arborists look at other trees besides these 6 that were at risk for dropping branches on your roof?
He looked at the ones that were around the house, and these are the primary ones around the
Okay.
house. The ones that are below the retaining wall, I think they're not growing this way. I'm not an expert.
Okay.
right? But these are the primary ones that I think I'd be concerned with.
Okay.
You know, we've got I have another plan. I wanted to get this done, and to be honest, I've never gone through something like this, so I'm trying to go through the experience. Thank you, by the way, for all the help. And, you know, I have to get an engineering firm, and I've sent emails out before and gotten no response. So I'm trying to figure out how to
So
proceed with that project.
So we'll deal with the safety concern in the short term, and then you'll be back
I'm hoping to be back
when you've got.
shortly with a better plan.
When you've got a wall
with-
plan.
Because
Yeah.
I want to rip wrap the shoreline because it looks like there's eroding of the hillside, you know.
We have a lot of time.
Well, we'll deal with the immediate stuff first.
Right, this isn't
We
a,
have all the time.
Any conditions or thoughts on your,
No further conditions than what was discussed in terms of cut to grade, no grinding the stump, and.
no grinding or no pulling?
He can grind, he can't pull.
Okay, no pulling, sorry, no pulling stump. And that some shrubs be replanted, some shrubs be planted, you know, that are suitable underneath pines.
Okay, and it's one of those, you know, the shrubs don't necessarily have to be in the same location as the trees. So if there's someplace else where the shrubs could go, other than where the trees are now, where they would get more sunlight or
Okay.
whatever. You know, it
yeah,
just,
there's some other areas, okay.
okay,
I can work with Matt, as we figure out the other project, we'll try and include this so that it's more clear and we have a better idea.
any comments or questions from members of the audience? Okay, so, can I have a motion to issue a conditional negative determination?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Matt will be in touch with the paperwork.
Great, thank you.
Come? Yes.
We asked a lot of questions earlier.
It's okay.
Moving on to our 7:40 PM agenda item, it's a minor modification request for IMG Homes LLC, Mill Park Place. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, Matt.
Evening.
Max Geesey with IMG Homes, and this is Mill Park Place, 71 Powers Road formerly. And we took down the old stuff and put up some new residents there.
Your request.
The request is we'd like to modify the current order conditions. I was not aware that you couldn't have two open orders on the same property. So when we were selling them, we told the buyers if they were in the resource area that they would have to come to the board to get approval to fence it. When talking with the engineers from Hannigan Engineering, they informed me that you couldn't have multiple open orders, and so that this would have to be amended. So our request is to seek approval for them to do small fenced-in areas off the back of the units. These will be white vinyl privacy fences held up off the ground, 6 inches. There shouldn't be any animals that need to go to nature coming from the houses, but if something's to get in there, be able to get out. And the areas as depicted on the screen there, they go back, between 20 and 25 feet back, and just a little bit wider than the houses. The reason that they're a little bit wider is we'd like for them to be able to access it from the deck areas. That way it could be enclosed. If they're letting a dog out from the side door, they'd be able to go into the fenced area. And some of them have side access, like unit number 3 and unit number 1, even though it's outside there. It's that one's in it, and unit number 1 is fully outside. But the access is from the side. So we made them all match so that it'd be more uniformed. Yeah, that's the request, and I think that it's probably primarily for dogs is why some of them want to fence the backyards, and another one wants to just so that they could they've got a young child and they would like her to be able to play out back in a fenced area.
And I think I remember reading that where these fenced-in areas are, that's homeowners exclusive use?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea to mark off and surround it and identify where it is. We don't end up with a situation where a homeowner wants to keep expanding, and consuming all the available.
Or trying to shoo a neighbor away.
Well, some of the issues that we might see at villages.
Right, right.
You know, where their exclusive use was something and it turned into something much more substantial
bigger,
than
yes. I like this
envisioned.
idea.
Additionally, this is all in existing lawn landscaped areas. The plan of record, or the plan provided does show the conservation posts at the 15
So it's an
foot.
existing use area, but it doesn't belong to.
It's an exclusive use area.
Right, it's just use, not ownership.
Yes, because they're
Because
all
these are all
condo.
condos.
Or some form of
Yeah,
common
under-
ownership.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that I don't understand.
Yeah, they're
yeah.
single-family detached condos, and the exclusive use area is deeded, but it technically belongs to the
Association
yes.
or whatever.
Right.
yeah.
And in terms of it is before the commission as a minor request to modify, as again, if the commission thought that this was of the scope of amending the plan, then we could do that, but wanted to explore modifying the approved plan to allow these fenced-in areas.
These look fine.
I would say minor.
Yeah, can I have a motion to approve the minor modification request?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for working with us with all of it.
Welcome.
Okay, moving on to our 7:45 PM agenda item, it's Seal Harbor LLC for 417 Groton Road.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Mark Gallagher from Seal Harbor Development. How is everybody this evening? Tired, I'm sure. As you may remember, we are constructing several homes. Can I see one of these as well? We're constructing homes along Groton Road. We've been working with you for the past probably 2.5 years. We've been in here several times. Up until today, I'm going to say that we've had a blemish-less experience with you. We have been building for the last 18 months a house on 415, 417 Groton Road. I know the number changes. For a client, and it's a rather large home on a 5-acre lot that we created. If you recall, initially this is where one of the older homes was on the property. There was a red ranch that sat along the road that was in very, very bad shape, very bad condition. When they did the work on Blue Brook, they used our property as a landing zone, so to speak, to make things easier with their orders of condition. So that portion of the property, the lower portion along Groton Road, was fully developed. It was all lawn area. It was adjacent to the Blue Brook. It was 100% developed. And we came in with a plan where we added land in the back to this and created the 5-acre lot. We reduced the amount of impervious. We reduced the amount of building in the 50-foot buffer to 0. We put in a driveway and we built up and back. One of the things that when we came in for our pre-construction meeting, which Matt will remember we talked about today when we met, is our company tries to stay away from the wetlands as much as we can. I think that's just a practice that makes sense. It's easy, it's clean. We talked about a subdivision originally, and we went away from that idea, obviously, because we'd be very close to the wetlands and the resource area. So we built this beautiful house. It's about 13,000 square feet. And we've had it under construction, as I said, for almost 18 months. We were wrapping it up, as the late fall, early winter came. And two things occurred that concern Matt, which is why we're here this evening to ask you to allow Matt to sign off on our occupancy permit. The first is that the gas company came, and when they did, we've been working for 12 months to get gas there. There was gas to the existing building, and when we raised the building, they cut the service off. So when we laid out our utilities, we asked the gas company to come in away from the wetlands to try to get away from the buffer. But the Blue Brook project got completed well before what we thought was we were going to get gas before the Blue Brook project would be completed, and they'd be able to tap the gas line and do their thing, and then we'd be able to do the restoration that we have down in the front. But unfortunately, things didn't fall in place like we wanted to, and when the gas company finally did come, they used the existing gas line that was in the ground 30 feet into the property that serviced the prior house, and that was within the 50-foot buffer previously. They then worked as quickly as they could to get out of the 50-foot buffer. They went around the back side of that, the rain garden we built, and that's all completed. And then they snaked as close as they could to the driveway and ran up the driveway outside the resource area. But Matt was concerned, and I'm not speaking for you, Matt, I'm just telling you a story, that they used the prior, gas stub that was there, and the work was done within the 50-foot buffer, as opposed to trying to go on the other side of the driveway, which would be outside the 50-foot buffer. But, and this is not an excuse, if you've ever worked with National Grid, you thank God that they show up. The fact that they decide what to do, you really have no control over. So, we got them to come as close as they could. We have utilities. There was a pole that was always there that feeds this property and the one of the other developments up back. So there was no way for them to come very close to the driveway. And with the recent paving, they tied right in. I believe that the gas line is right under the guardrail that's there. So they just didn't have a lot to work with at the time. So that was one concern of Matt's. The second concern is when he walked the property with my son I think it's about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. There's a requirement in our order to mark the 100-foot buffer along the entire edge. And I know that there's been some sensitivity lately, not with us, but with somebody else that may have got themselves in trouble. So Matt met with my son, they talked about it. Matt suggested that we did not do any work, that we come in front of you. My buyer flew in from India to close February 5th, and because we couldn't get all the signatures, they couldn't close. They're here, and they would love to move into their house, but we went ahead, well, actually, two things happened. There are 16 posts that are required to be placed under the order of conditions. 12 of those 16 posts are outside your jurisdiction. 4 of the posts are within your jurisdiction. And we discussed it after my son met with Matt, and Matt and I discussed it, and we discussed it with our attorney, and we did the 4 posts that are within your jurisdiction by hand. We did not use our equipment to do them. We thought, obviously, from what we discussed with Matt today, incorrectly, and we apologize for this, but we thought if we hand dug the holes, it was an area that was already 100% disturbed. It was an area that there was no wetlands plants. This is the area that we're going to be doing the replication in. And we pulled the posts as close, 3 of the posts as close to the driveway as we could. 1 post is on the far side, and we gave you an as-built of the rain garden that's right there. And Matt thought that was an important post when we talked about it today. That post was not in frost because that's where the rain garden sits, and the rain garden doesn't have any frost in it, believe it or not. And we put in the 4 posts by hand. And we did disturb the area. Matt pointed out that was not in concert with what he discussed with my son. And we did not feel that we were violating either the local bylaw or the Wetlands Protection Act. We came in this afternoon, my attorney and Matt and I, we talked about it with Matt, and he has been extremely helpful throughout all of the process of doing everything. And we hate to be here this evening, but we apparently erred by putting those 4 posts in within the 50-foot buffer, and putting them in by hand or not. It's not really clear, and we don't want to argue. It's not really worth our time, honestly, or your time. It's my company. I made the decision, so I'm responsible. And Matt was very clear when he discussed it with my son, but we did not feel that we were doing anything egregious, and we apologize for what we did. I don't see a reason to go in now and remove it. We talked about an enforcement order, but I remove it. I'm doing as much damage as I did. No damage to putting them in, and I've met the requirements, I believe, of the notes on the plan. And I would like to hopefully have this conversation with this evening and find a way to have Matt sign off. We've talked about a punch list of items today. I know there's a requirement in there. We've given you a draft deed this evening that will notify our buyer. We're very upfront with all of our buyers, just to be clear, that before they move in, before they buy, we have discussions about wetlands. It's not something that we want to be in front of you about. And none of our buyers are not aware that they're in wetlands. And when this family came home and we pointed out all the posts, and they just kind of smiled because they're very well aware that would not be a good thing to pierce that area. But we would ask that we were allowed to have Matt, whatever we need to do tomorrow to provide paperwork and to continue to work with you. And then in the spring, we will do the restoration. We went over the 2-year policy today about maintenance and care, and we will be very well informed of our buyer. We'll be there making sure that the wetlands replication goes well and is all cleaned up. We've had no problems with the wetlands. We've had no sedimentation erosion control problems. We've done everything by the book. So we have several more orders of conditions, as you know, outstanding. We're not leaving. We're still building homes. We still have more homes to build. The last one up on Loon and the others. So I think we're bound to close these all out. This was one of Matt's concerns today. 2 years comes and we haven't done the work. That wouldn't, we're gonna have a buyer that's gonna be hot to trot to get this wrapped up in the spring. get all the landscaping done. We did stabilize, we did hydroseed in the fall, and we hydroseeded all along, the jurisdictional area along the house. And we stabilized over the septic. So that's all been hydroseeded and completed. The vast majority of our work in the spring is in the back of the house, far, far away from the jurisdictional area. So I'm here to try to understand what we can do to get Matt to sign off so we can move this client into Westford and be happy in the community.
Okay, so was the gas line on the original plan?
The original gas line was on the original plan, and then we had laid out utilities based upon where we would like them to go. That's not necessarily where we were able to put them. The power company came in and put a new pole in almost in the exact location as the old pole. And then we ran from that pole to the house. Actually, we ran from that pole to a transformer, which is outside the jurisdictional area of the wetlands. The water runs up the center of the road because that's where the water district wanted to go. The reason for that is they asked us to put in a hydrant. So we ran in actually an 8-inch main all the way up the road for fire protection of the homes that are out back. And the only one that is not in the, well, within reason, not in the location of where we wanted it to go is in fact the gas line. The gas line we wanted on the right-hand side of the driveway as you come up, and they used the old gas line, as I've pointed out, that's on the left-hand side of the driveway.
Okay. And with the 4 posts that were in the buffer zone, were those installed in the location as shown on the plan of record?
They are very, very close to being on it. The ones that are not are the ones that we pulled them closer to the driveway to get further away from the 50-foot buffer.
Okay.
But yes, they're all linear. We had them staked before we put them in.
Okay, yeah, it just, one of the reasons why we're very particular about where the posts go is because sometimes we then have a subsequent owner who comes in and says, well, I really want more space. So it's kind of like where the posts go initially is what we'd want to live with through as many owners as the property has.
You can see where the first post is. It's the black block shown on the
That
plan right
block,
there.
okay.
That one is actually closer to the driveway because that's right where the utilities, the power is.
Okay.
So it couldn't go in because we'd be piercing right
Okay.
through where the power is. So that one is closer to the driveway. The one that's up above that one is exactly where it's supposed to go.
Okay.
The one that's the next one up right there, that one is actually closer to the driveway, or as you can see, because it was originally located a little further into the wetlands, or towards the wetlands. The rest of them are spot on to where they were supposed to go.
Okay.
We're missing one, all the way down the end. Matt pointed this out.
Maybe somewhere down here.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't know exactly,
But it's outside the commission's buffer, and again,
Yeah.
having it on a punch list, I'm perfectly fine,
That's what we talked about today, right? Yep.
The stake is still in the ground, we went and saw it today.
Yeah, we went after we met with you.
Not the post, but the stake, that stake.
Okay.
Not the post.
I've asked my questions. Do other people have questions they want to ask? Okay.
So with, again, in email correspondence, if I can figure out how to tab through things. There were 2 outstanding special conditions. Number 52, that language be included in a purchase and sale agreement and deed. Again, draft deed has been presented to the commission. Additionally, prior to the request or issuance of occupancy, the notice start boundary delineated by installing pressure treated wooden posts, as that has occurred. If amenable to the commission, again, as these 2 special conditions have been satisfied, open, if the commission is, again, amenable with the work that was performed recently to install the posts, be happy to sign the occupancy permit.
Okay, and it just, Eric and I were on the commission when we implemented the condition that says, if you want to work between December 1st and April 1st, come say, because we had people doing stuff that actually caused problems, and it's kind of like, you know, we see a lot of requests come in, and you tell us what you're gonna do, we know what you're doing, that's great. And it just, we want to know, because we don't want people to make assumptions, and that's when things can go
We've
wrong.
seen some pretty ugly situations.
I'm
that,
sure.
You know, it just,
And it just, it's, and also it's treating every single, project
Equally.
applicant the same. Yeah, we don't say, oh, this guy's great, so yeah, we'll kind of cut him some slack, and this guy's,
yeah.
we gotta watch him like a hawk. It's just, no, it's basically, we try and treat everybody the same.
I understand.
But Matt, you're saying that, at this point, if the commission is agreeable, then you will sign the occupancy permit?
Yep.
Okay, can I have a motion to, how do I phrase this?
Direct.
Can I have a motion that the commission feels the criteria have been met to allow Matt to sign the occupancy permit?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
I
thank
won't be
you.
back for this kind of thing again. Matt, thanks for everything today.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our next 7:45 PM agenda item. We're going to correct the Scribner's error in the rules and regulations for use of town of Westford conservation land.
As pointed out by Jim at a previous meeting, the rules and regulations for the commission's land, conservation lands, omitted.
It's ours.
Yeah, the highlighted and red addition, correcting the Scrivener's error, again, whether it was copied from the incorrect language on the sign or the incorrect sign was copied from this. There was no chapter and section, chapter number or section title included. If the commission is amenable, I would request to accept the rules and regulations as drafted, correcting the Scrivener's error.
And we should change, can't see it because I don't have my glasses, but we should change the date of the rules, right?
Well, and so this was why I didn't do that, because
Otherwise, we're gonna end up with a good copy and a bad copy floating around on the town website for.
well, I mean, I'll have our our permitting assistant go through and make sure that the only thing available is the correct one. And again, it's I didn't want to revise it because, again, the scope of it is just.
Yep.
So where it becomes an editorial correction?
Yeah, but if you want to,
Okay.
have it be another, subsequent revision, I can do that.
I would.
Okay.
That's, I know it's all we're doing is changing, but we're changing it from a hazardous waste dumping site to a rule of how to process
Okay.
fines.
Okay, as long as it doesn't need to be taken to town meeting.
No.
Okay, so, do you need any kind of a motion for this?
I would appreciate a motion.
Okay, so could I have a motion to approve the correction of the Scrivener's error with the condition that,
And update the
that,
revision.
that as of the revised date be updated to reflect the current date?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to our next 7:45 PM agenda item, the agricultural and conservation land, the draft MOU with the Agricultural Commission.
I was not able to provide that in time of their meeting this week. I will try to get it on their subsequent meeting for their consideration and attend representing the commission.
Okay, so now,
I do not have an update on the certificate of compliance request for 69 Broadway Street, 334-1693. The enforcement order in progress, again, we'll add 2710 to that as things to monitor and follow up. I'll add 2710 Road to that now as something to monitor and continue following up on. I don't have an update on either 20 Keys Road or 35 Keys Road at this time. I have reached out to the Lakeside, the Association for Lakeside Meadows, to set up a discussion to hopefully clarify encroachments onto the open space parcel subject to the CR in the upcoming months. I do not have an update on the Emmett and Neshoba Brook MOU, nor anything with respect to the Stony Brook Conservation Area list. Nothing for Edwards Woods. Freedom Park, again, we're before CPC, that application, and their next meeting on Tuesday, they will be finalizing discussion and recommending. Yeah. Summer Village CR, I don't have an update.
Oh, question, with the facilities contract, did the RFP get?
The RFP has not been posted.
Okay.
It'll be shortly.
Okay, but thanks to everybody for your feedback, comments, the scope of work. I think we actually got it from 21 down to 18.
Items?
Yeah, and some of the sub-items got consolidated or eliminated as well, so, but yeah, so that's going out within the week.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't have an update for the Summer Village CR amendment update. Minutes.
Minutes for December 10th. Does anybody have any corrections? Not, can I have a motion to approve the the minutes for the December 10th, 2025 meeting?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, too. Have people had a chance to read the minutes for January 14th, 2026?
Yes.
Okay. I did have one comment on page 8, the top of page 8, which is where it talks about the reviewing the forest cutting plan. The last sentence, as written, Salem was asking for clarification and direction from the commission. Nothing was really stated in the minutes, so after listening to the replay, I came up with the additional sentence. Based on discussion among members of the commission, Salem will provide comments to the forester. So that's what I came up with. So if nobody has a problem with that, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended for January 14th,
What
2000?
comments that we made? This was John Robbins's,
Yeah, it was just that they be cognizant of the wetlands crossing, their
that's it?
proposed.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just, he asked for feedback and nothing, and I remembered that there was something that got him to say, yes, I'll give feedback, and I just wanted that to be part of the written record. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes for January 14th, 2026 as amended?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Scheduling site
Oh.
visit, I'll be in touch for 1 to 400 Littleton Road for Kimball's notice of intent application. In the snow.
Okay. Now, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.